Tired people, and we're glad that you're here. My next guest needs no introduction. The man, the mule, the legend, Ben Toms.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, so welcome to my session. Those of you that maybe fell asleep between, you're now in another session. If you want to leave, now's your time. So today, we're going to be talking about extracting data from Jamfro, some hints, tips, and tricks. I'm going to intro myself anyway. So I'm Ben. I was from DataJar when this slide was put on his decks were put together. But very, very happy to say that DataJar joined the Jamf family in July, so now I'm a Jamf employee. I went the long route, but I'm happy we're here and happy we're all joined. So, thank you. And you folks might also know me as MacMule. And also been really funny is even for all these slides and all the images about DataJar joining Jamf and other things, hasn't quite yet, sorry. That is still the image that appears everywhere. So my professional image at Jamf is still that, which is great. So with this talk, we're not going to talk about the basic API stuff, how to access the API, scripts and stuff, those types of things. This is kind of expecting that you folks know how to do that and just giving you some ideas of what to do at the next level. We're going to focus on 3 areas. First of all, Jamf API scalability best practices, what it is, how this can work at scale, and how you can let Jamf do some of the heavy lifting for you. Also, Jamf Cloud, but no seam. Never fear, the API is here, which we'll go into about notifications through Jamf and ways that you can leverage that. And lastly, getting individual data to devices. Have you tried a profile? So there are the 3 sections we're going to go through on this. Throughout the talk itself, there's going to be several links at the bottom of the page. They'll all be on this GitHub repo, and I'll show this link at the end as well. So you don't have to worry about that. Cool. So I still see phones up. I'll give you guys another couple of seconds. Wicked. Okay, so first up, let's talk about Jamf API scalability best practices. Now, this is a document, we're basically going to go through a document that Jamf released strange enough, whilst we at DataJar were building out our DataJar portal. So our portal looks like this, and there's going to be more information about this and hopefully more stuff that we can bring next JNUC or so. But this portal itself was built around these best practices that Jamf have already put in there. So the idea of me showing you this now is to show that I'm not just saying this is what we say now, we as Jamf now say is best practice. Actually, we built a thing based around these best practices, so these do work for you. So here's a link to the page. We're going to go through some of the section headings and pick out some of the kind of more relevant parts of what I think for us folks here as an audience. So, rate limiting. One of the points within the guide is the fact that Jamf has no inbuilt rate limiting. So you want to limit yourself to like only 5 concurrent connections at a time. So if you're running out API scripts across your fleet, that's going to be somewhat difficult to kind of police. But if you're building an integration app, then you need to try and look at that and build in these limitations. We had a fun application at one point that did 200 API calls in a second, and that made Jamf Pro very sad. So, yeah. And if you are building an integration, look at the response time and adjust the requests accordingly. Some of your requests might take longer for Jamf to process, or it could be some network bottlenecks, etc., those types of things. Don't just keep hitting and hitting and hitting your Jamf environment, basically. Similarly, when it comes to error handling, within the guide, it says use an exponential backoff algorithm, which, yeah. Essentially, again, if you're finding errors, don't just keep trying and trying and trying. The way that you can kind of deal with that is to take heed and respond to error codes as needed. So kind of slow your roll. If there's a problem, don't just keep making those calls. And with this is where, when you're looking at HTTP codes, Jamf have got different documentation around, sorry, I'll skip the one, about how you can generate response codes from things. There we are, okay. So here's a simple curl command. The bit to look at here, if you've been using curl and you want to see how you get response codes out, is that HTTP code bit there in the blue. So with this response here, and again, this comes from Jamf's documentation, you'll get a number at the end. And then with that number, you can then do simple if statements. If at 204, I've got the token, great. If 401, the token's already been validated. But the point is, use these HTTP codes and then progress as you need. Jamf also document their response codes for the API. Many vendors do on here as well. But essentially they follow, and most APIs follow the same type of thing. If you look at 200s, you're good. Everything's worked out fine. 400s, there's some issue. Authentication-based, wrong endpoint, something's gone wrong. Or you've basically been stopped. And then 500s. And then the 500 errors, there's an issue. Something's gone wrong, it's normally server-side. So if you're getting these types of things, then whatever your integration's doing, whatever your scripts are doing, be mindful of them and actually react appropriately. Now, if you're a cat person, there's a really handy website which can give you details of these different error codes. And if you're a dog person, there's another website for you as well. If you're neither, I can't help you. But as an example, here you get 403, it gives you a nice image that's forbidden. You can put these in your slide decks, they're really helpful. And you get to learn more things. So apparently there's a 418 response. And both of these will actually link you back to documentation, which will advise you that 418 is literally a response within the spec of HTML, where the server says, I'm a teapot, and essentially, it's just, look, you've asked me to do something, I'm not going to do it, I'm a teapot. So, and there's a few more like this, it's just quite interesting. But as you delve into these things, it's quite a helpful way of actually visualizing and seeing what it is that what you're hitting, and ways of even working with your colleagues to say, you were hitting this, and it could just, like you say, you folks were chuckling, it could be quite funny to just visualize it in that way. Okay, so if we go back to the Jamf Pro document, let's look at syncing device inventory data. So with this, if you've got an API integration that's like constantly polling and polling Jamf, there's potentially not a need for it to do it on that level of frequency. Think about when your devices update their inventory. If we look at mobile devices, the shortest inventory that we can set within the policy is once a day. So why are you updating the inventory on your API integration every 5 minutes for a device that's only updated itself once a day within Jamf Pro? So you can see there, so it's every day is the shortest, we've got every week and every month. Okay, if you look within, if you look at the macOS side, by default, every Jamf Pro instance will have a update inventory policy that's set to run once a week. You might have tweaked that to run once a day. And we know that there'll be other workflows, there'll be policies that will run, that post-install that will update Jamf Pro, and you might do things at login window that will run as well, that will update, run a recon stuff as well. So with your macOS devices, you might be running inventory updates a bit more, but again, polling the API every 5 minutes or so for every device record is kind of really not going to be helpful to anybody. So if you are building an integration, there is another option available to you as well. So this is where you should be looking at webhooks. If you're a developer building these integrations, this is what we should be looking at. Now, webhooks themselves and DDM kind of work in a similar way. So if you've been following what DDM does and you're not sure what webhooks are or vice versa, they're pretty similar in the way that they go through. So to explain, I'm going to try and put some slides together on this. And for example, here's some details here on some of the DDM stuff that's coming in within Jamf Pro, and every single release of Jamf Pro, there's going to be more DDM stuff coming in. As we saw in the Jamf Pro 11 announcement, software updates, stuff's via DDM, so it's going to become more and more prevalent, and we're going to get more and more of these updates in time and when we should do from these devices. So here's this example. So Jamf Pro this is like a normal profile delivery or the older MDM framework. Jamf Pro nags and nags and nags the device. The device says, yeah, okay, I've done it. And then your API endpoint, why are you then going, Jamf, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? And then for it to come back to you and say it has been done. So these are the types of things, the workflows you want to avoid. They're messy, they're high in resources, and it's just really, really noisy. So if we can look towards the more DDM webhook type model, the device instructs Jamf Pro, hey, I've done a thing. Hey, I've made a change. Jamf Pro informs your integration via webhooks. Your integration then does the API calls it needs, maybe just for that one device. The device has been offline for 3 months. Why are you polling the record? You know, device updated its OS. Cool. Now you want to know. Now you want to update your external integrations. There's more webhooks that I would like to see when DDM happens, and so this is one of those cheeky moments where it's like, I'm doing the talk, but please upvote my idea, please. Thank you. But you know, going forward, this would be a really cool model to follow. And you can see that Apple are doing this with the DDM side of things, and adopting that type of model with webhooks in your integrations could massively save you resources to keep everything up to date in a very, very timely manner. The other thing that Jamf recommends, this is very much something that we do follow with the portal, is actually using an advanced search. So don't just poll every API endpoint for every record. Use the advanced search feature instead within Jamf. Much lower calculations. Every time you access a smart group, it's recalculated. So this is much lower on your Jamf Pro server. You get a quicker response back from your API integrations and scripts. And also, there's lots of heavy lifting that the API can do for you to help. The nice thing about the advanced search as well, if you're just querying a smart group that will only show you managed devices, a smart search, advanced search can show you unmanaged devices as well. And you can tailor that to maybe only show you devices that have been online in the last month. But again, do you need records of a device that hasn't been online for 3 months? There we go. So the heavy lifting I was talking about here. So we're going to go for some lovely slides in a moment. They look amazing. See, who doesn't like a big blob of XML on a screen? So, this is a device record. What I'm trying to give you an example here is where you can use an advanced search and actually helps you a lot more of your integrations. So in this here, we're trying to see if the device's hard drive's firewall encrypted. For that, we need to find the boot partition. From that, we then need to ascertain if it's actually encrypted. And there's several areas on here we need to look at. First of all, there's a name there, boot partition. And then it's encrypted, and the percentage level as well. These are things that you'd have to kind of pull out and then make them work with your integrations, show them how you will in the products that you're using. This is the record for the device itself via an advanced search. See here, 5.2 status. Boot partition encrypted. So much simpler. We've let Jamf already realize that it's not partially encrypted, which one's the boot partition, and you just grab that from there and turn that into whatever value you need in your integration. And there's many more examples of this. Let Jamf Pro do the heavy lifting for you. You're going to get better data within your integrations, and it's easier for everybody. And again, when you're building these out, it's quite nice. You can actually go in, create your advanced search, check the boxes that you need, and you very much know then one-to-one what's going to be available for you. If there's any issues, you can just download the CSV as a report, check that, make sure the value's in there as you need. It makes the whole process much, much simpler. So let's look at Jamf Cloud, but no SIEM. So if you've got Jamf Cloud and you maybe don't have the log streaming option enabled, or you don't even have a SIEM to ship logs to, what do? Well, never fear, the API is here. We at Datajar, we migrated a couple of hundred instances since the beginning of the year to Jamf Cloud, and during that process, we lost access to our SIEM for shipping logs. So we were looking at building out this process here, and there's actually a process already within Jamf that we can leverage. So before, we were using this repo here and putting in logs, and if you've seen this before or not, where we'd say this log in our SIEM met this error. But again, that's the issue, that's the thing that we're missing. So can anybody see where the solution is? Because it's on the screen. See, up there, that annoying little red thing that everybody see? This is really, really helpful. So those notifications can be accessed via the API. So you can have a read-only API account or a very limited access, even more limited API account, and then check those notifications. You'll get a big list of stuff. There's about 55 or so notifications that are available there, and more are being added with every Jamf release pretty much. Here's another horrible slide, but the idea is this is some of the more important ones that you might want to look at, and we'll kind of split them out a little bit here. You know, for example, if your APNS cert is revoked, you probably want to know about that. It's probably going to be a bad day. Maybe, you know, and instances around, you know, the device enrollment program, terms and conditions, when those change and stuff as well. other explorations, other things that have failed. If you were, you can now be proactively alerted on these things happening so that you don't find out and go through that process of, why can this person not enroll? Oh, did the LDAP cert expire? Did the SO? This can alert you and, again, allow you to be much more proactive with Jamf Pro. Now, the lovely folks at Electrona have actually released a project that will access those and post them to Slack. So obviously it's something that you could look to extend to your own integrations, etc. But it's a very simple project, works really well, and it will be able to pass those and generate alerting for you. So again, if you move to Jamf Cloud, you've still got a way of being proactively alerted, and the API is really helpful for this. And we've now been running this, our version of what Electrona is on here, for almost a year now, and it works extremely well. I'll just say it's really scalable, and it's really nice, still having that proactive warning that things are about to come up and expire. And with the expirations, just as an example, if your APNS cert's about to expire, your DEP token or your VPP token, you get 30 days notice. So that gives you, everybody should then have enough time to actually be able to react and get it renewed in time as well. Versus, oh dear, it's broken, right, where do we go, what are the credentials, and that mad panic that can sometimes happen. There's another thing here, getting inventory data to devices. Have you tried a profile? So for this is where there's several workflows that might require someone to do a recon to get the JSS ID of a device, that type of thing. There's actually a way you can do this via a profile instead, and that's leveraging data from Jamf Pro. So this is for your mobile devices. These are the types of variables that are available. So these variables can be put into profiles. This admittedly isn't that helpful unless you're developing your own application itself for your mobile device fleet, because then you can use these within the app config of the device. But if you are a mobile admin, you actually would have already used these when you set up Jamf self-service. So these are those payload variables within here when you configure the app. So the app doesn't prompt and ask you for the Jamf server, you can put these details in there for you. If you're on macOS, it's very much the same. Asset tag differs, but there's lots of these different items on here. So like I say, running a recon to try and get the JSS ID to then make an API call, well, instead the JSS ID is listed there about halfway down. Lots of other data on here that you can add in. Email addresses, if a device is assigned an email address, then we want to get that data onto the device. So how would we go about doing that? Well, as usual, Deflounder provides. There's a great workflow here from Rich about this. Essentially, you write a profile out, and it deploys those variables to the domain that you can query using defaults, etc. So with this, obviously, you've got to look at the scoping. If a device hasn't got an email address, don't deploy the email profile. When it does have an email address in the record, then you could push out the email profile. These won't adaptively update. The way that they kind of work is, as the MDM goes to deploy the profile, the MDM swaps out the variables for the value needed, and then it sends that to the device. So if your email addresses do change, you change domains, etc., you'll need to just reflush out those profiles again. But the idea of this is to show that there's data available in Jamf that you can surface through to your devices programmatically. And on here as well, the bigger one with this for your macOS devices would be your extension attributes. So you can have an extension attribute result on there that can then actually be deployed to a device, accessible via a plist on a preference domain that you set, and then you can use that for your onboard scripting. And the hope is that that kind of light bulb moments and helps some of you focus on your workflows. So that's actually it, really. Here's the links again to the slides. I hope that wasn't too quick, and I hope that was of some value to you. And yeah, any questions, and we'll see. Thank you.
All right, Ben. We do have one question,
Okay.
so we'll make it official here. Will your slides, particularly for all the URLs, be available online?
So all the URLs are available on the QR code link there, and I'll add a PDF of the slides later on today.
Cool. Any live questions from the room? Very good, y'all. Enjoy your break in the day, and keep on keeping on. Have a good one. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
There'll be good times again for me.